Determination, Chapter 1, A Big Discovery. Pressure is perfect. Heat is on point. Farron mumbled to himself, crossing things off his mental list while making some small adjustments to his earlier introduced, now upgraded invention of the hot water tank. Now it wouldn't only come from taps. People could now use the hot water to take nice warm showers and even adjust the heat of the water themselves. That's a whole upgrade since Farron had made the last design. It still needed to be tested, which was what the 18-year-old alchemist was doing right now. In front of Farron was a bathtub with a shower, connected to one of the hot water tanks, which was also newly designed. This was a project he'd been working on for weeks now, since he didn't really have any work assigned by the Queen to do. He'd been doing some upgrades on old inventions. Time to run this test. Everyone ready? Farron spoke playfully, though no one but Rudiger was in the room with him. He drummed his fingers on the table to mimic the sound of drums. Ready or not, here we go. He ran to a lever and pulled it, pushed a button, and walked over to his invention. The moment of truth. The brunette turned the knob on the shower. The device made some creaking and popping noises, but soon enough the hot water started spraying from the shower head. Farron smiled triumphantly and took a glove off to feel the water on his hand. Way too hot, so, logically, he adjusted the temperature by turning the blue knob. Once the temperature was set, Farron looked at his furry companion. Do you want to try it out? You could use a bath. Rudiger chattered in protest, backing away. This made Farron chuckle. Come on, bud, it isn't that bad. I just need someone to test it out for me, and you're the only one here, except for me. When the raccoon did not seem convinced by that, the alchemist added, and it's nice and warm as you want it to be. Rudiger still didn't seem convinced, crossing his arms and letting out a huff. Farron rolled his eyes and sighed. Okay, fine. I'll give you some apples if you do it. The raccoon now raised an eyebrow. Seems like the foresight of food piqued his interest. This wasn't enough to fully convince him, though. 2 apples? No reply. 2 apples and a cookie? Come on, Ruddy. Farron looked at his pet with puppy eyes, trying to convince the raccoon to try out the new contraption. Rudiger, in response, rolled his eyes and sighed. He reluctantly walked over to the bathtub. Farron smiled excitedly and picked his furry friend up, putting him under the shower and soaping him in. You're the best, Rudiger, the alchemist said, sincerely, only receiving a huff in response. Not more than 10 minutes later, Farron was drying the raccoon off. I have to show Rapunzel, he bounced excitedly, but was stopped by Rudiger holding up a paw. Right, after I give you your well-deserved food. The brunette jogged over to a drawer, a place where he usually kept some food for days when he would forget the time while working. It happened a lot. Farron tends to get really invested in his projects and often forgets that time exists, and so forgets to eat, hydrate, etc. To solve this issue, Rapunzel had gifted him a drawer where he could store some food and water in. The alchemist grabbed 2 apples and a cookie and wanted to turn and hand it over to Rudiger. But his eye fell on a strange corrugation in the wall, half hidden behind the drawer. Of course, this drew Farron's attention, though his attention was soon forced back to the impatient raccoon pulling at his pant leg. Right, yeah, here. Farron absent-mindedly handed the food to his furry friend. Hey, can you fetch me a hammer and a chisel, bud? He turned back to Rudiger, who tilted his head confused at his owner's sudden strange behavior. The brunette noticed this and started to explain. Look, here, there's a strange corrugation in this wall. It almost looks like a hidden door or something. You know, like someone tried to hide something in the wall, he said, taking the tools he had requested from the paws of his lab partner. I'm just curious to what's so important it must be hidden away inside a solid stone wall. And so the teen got to work on opening the mysterious little door. A while later, Rudiger had fallen asleep, laying curled up on the alchemist's desk, peacefully snoring. Though that peace didn't last for long, because not even a minute later Farron yelled out, Ha! I got it! Finally! He sat up, a big smile on his face. Okay, now I just have to lift this brick. He pulled out the way too big brick he'd just managed to get loose from the wall. Out of there, he strained. For a second, the scrawny teen actually managed to lift the huge brick up. but it was way too heavy for him nonetheless. No, 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 no! Despite his attempts to keep the brick from falling, he couldn't stop it. A heavy stone crashed on the floor with a significantly loud thud that made the floor tremble. Varian flinched, and Rodica jumped up, hissing at the brick. Oops, sorry, bud, the clumsy alchemist apologized. He quickly recollected himself. Anyway, let's see what's behind that brick, shall we? Rodica nodded in agreement, and Varian smiled. The latter turned to the hole in the wall. To be completely honest, he wasn't expecting much. Or, actually, he didn't quite know what to expect. For sure, it wasn't what he would actually find in a small space in the wall. The brunette curiously peeked into the dark space. He reached in a hand and pulled out what appeared to be a book of some sort and some loose pages. The boy curiously picked what he had found up and brought it to his desk so he could look at it in peace. All right, what do we have here? He mumbled quietly to himself, picking up the book. It was titled Allah's Almanac. The cover had a brown color and was decorated with some alchemy symbols. Varian blew the layer of dust off the journal and sneezed as the tiny dust particles tickled his nose. The loose pages flew up into the air and scattered all over the floor. The brunette sighed and got up to pick them up, and when his eye fell on a drawing of his mother, which he recognized from the family portrait in his living room. He let out a small gasp and picked it up. Of course! Allah is my mother's name, he mumbled quietly to himself, studying the drawing. But then, why would Dad hide this from me? A frown appeared on the boy's face, and he spent the rest of the evening and night trying to decode the text from his mother's journal. Because of course, Allah had written everything in code. Only a few people would be able to decipher and get to know all the important information she'd written down. Varian spent all night just to decode one page. Around 5 a.m., when the sun started to rise, he finally fell asleep at his desk, only to be awoken by Kieran an hour later. Varian, is everything okay? You've been down here for hours. The man placed a bowl with yogurt and fruit down on his son's desk and looked at him with concern in his eyes. Varian hummed, still half asleep. He lifted his head up from Allah's journal and looked at his father. It took the young alchemist a few minutes to fully wake up, and the whole time he was just staring at Kieran and the fruit. Until his stomach rumbled loudly and he snapped out of it. Oh, hey, Dad, can I ask you something? Kieran, who had been patiently waiting for Varian to wake up, nodded. His eye fell on the journal, but he quickly looked back at his son. Before Varian could speak, his dad spoke up. So, you found the journal. It was hard to determine whether he was upset, disappointed, or relieved. His face stoic as it was most of the time. Varian nodded slowly, looking at the journal and closing it. Dad, why did you hide this from me? He looked up, a disappointed and sad look on his face, mixed with a tad of anger. You kept this from me for 18 years. For 18 years, the only information you told me about Mom was that she died. The only reminder of her I ever had are these goggles. The angry boy wanted to say more, but was interrupted by his father. Varian, calm down. I was trying to protect you, the man sighed, slightly frowning. He picked up the journal and collected the loose papers as he spoke. Protect me? Protect me from what? The truth? I'd rather learn the truth than live my life getting lied to, Varian said, fist clenched and brow furrowed, obviously outraged. Why did you never tell me Mom went on this journey to some eternal library? I don't know anything about Mom, and you always refuse to talk about her. Varian, Kieran snapped, successfully making the alchemist shut his mouth. It doesn't matter. I will tell you everything when you are ready. The man turned to walk back out of the laboratory, wanting to end this conversation. I am ready, Dad. Please. I want to know what really happened to Mom. Varian ran over to his father, looking at him with pleading eyes. Please? He earned a soft sigh from Kieran. Okay, I'll tell you. But you have to promise me one thing. The alchemist nodded eagerly. Anything. I'll do anything. Promise me you will not attempt to go on the same quest she went on." Varian's smile turned into a frown, and he fell silent. End of chapter 1.